That is Iman Gadzhi, a 22-year-old with a net worth of over $85 million. This is me, Mark Tilbury, a multi-millionaire from a completely different generation. And here are 8 things that Iman shared with me that I want to give my perspective on. And I have to warn all the Iman fans out there, I don't agree with everything.
I absolutely despise the government. I think they are the biggest criminal organization on earth.
Iman believes our politics are controlled by the rich and powerful. He often refers to them as the puppet masters who are pulling the strings behind the scenes. Hearing this from such a young guy shocked me. When I was younger, we were told to go to school, get a job, work hard and save for retirement. And everyone believed it. There just wasn't a way to challenge the status quo, unlike now with the internet. I remember being so sad about the GameStop fiasco of 2021. After hearing on the news that some kid had put his whole life savings into GameStop, all because he felt like it was his only chance to succeed in the current climate, resulting in him losing almost everything. Thinking about it, it's not actually that surprising that people are waking up. The younger generation today probably feels a bit financially cheated. House prices are out of reach and Instagram constantly shows them how the 1% live, pushing down their throats the widening wealth gap. The next generations are being born and raised into debt just so they can become cogs in the system. Knowing this, it starts to make sense why so many young people are drowning in student loans, are never taught about personal finance and feel like they can barely breathe.
I've got somewhere between $3.4 million worth of watches.
On my YouTube channel, Strike It Big, Iman shared that he believes in the idea of investing in your status. Like how having nice watches will make people more likely to do business with you, or how it can increase your influence on social media. I find this one hard, as I didn't have much when I was growing up, and I vividly remember going over to my mate Paul's house. His mum would say I was looking pretty hungry, and honestly, I was. She used to cook me a meal, and it ingrained in me the value of money. Due to my childhood, I have found it extremely hard to spend money on myself, and this extends to expensive watches, cars and suits. Even though I can afford it, I always think I can find a better way to invest my money. However, after speaking to Iman, I'm man enough to admit my ingrained money mindset might be a little too extreme. I now see the value of having a nice timepiece, as it can help in many ways that aren't directly money related, such as networking. Speaking about investing, if you want to get a free stock worth between $3,000 and $1,000, then I'll leave a link to public.com down below.
I will never be legally married, especially in a place like the UK.
Iman believes that courts almost always favour the side of the woman, and divorce is a huge financial mistake. He did, however, state on my podcast that he would give his partner over $1 million every year into a separate bank account so that she had security. He follows a lot of the ideology laid out in the popular red pill movement, and thinks that men lose their passion and become softer around women. But from my experience, marriage has brought me a lot of joy that couldn't be bought with money. Like the old Beatles song, money can't buy you love. In fact, my wife inspired me to make one of the most important $1 million deals in my business. This turned out to be one of the best decisions I've made, and I didn't make it alone. She's always there to offer me a free second opinion, even if I don't ask for it. I understand the reasoning behind Iman's opinion. However, without marriage, I don't believe you can have the same amount of trust and love. After all, what joy is there having all the money in the world if you don't have someone to love and share it with?
Once you have 10 million plus, you never need to pay tax ever again anyways.
Iman thinks the people hit the hardest are those who have no choice when it comes to paying their taxes, because it gets taken straight from their paychecks. Think doctors, footballers and CEOs. This takes me back to when I worked my first job as a carpenter. I was shocked to see how much tax was being deducted from my paycheck. It felt like someone else had first dibs on my money. I mentioned to my friend, who owned a multi-million dollar plumbing business, just how big my tax bill actually was. He told me, Mark, what you gotta do is you gotta earn more money. I said, yeah, but then I'll pay more tax. He said, no, once you get past a certain threshold and you become super rich, that's the point that you can start moving from paid income to asset wealth. And they can't as easily take that away from you. That was an absolute eye-opener. I used to think we needed to decrease taxes on the rich, but now I've realised it's the middle class and lower upper class that pay the most in taxes. The people who just pay tax without looking into the loopholes.
When you watch football games. Yes, they may be well paid. Yes, they might make, millions of dollars a year. But at the end of the day, someone still tells them where and when to be somewhere.
Iman argues that true freedom is being able to be anywhere at any given time. This is an interesting one to me because I've always built traditional brick and mortar businesses which do tie me down geographically. I became a millionaire in my 20s, but I've never really had that level of freedom. It's definitely attainable as long as you can earn money from the internet. I've met some people who do exactly that and live in exotic places like Thailand where they can earn in dollars and spend in the local currency baht while scaling their business. I think this is a big reason why cryptocurrency became so popular, as one of its main selling points is decentralization. In other words, freedom. The crypto and NFT boom was certainly a big multiplier to Iman's net worth during the pandemic, as he was heavily invested in crypto, as well as launching his own NFT project, leading to him making over $4 million in just one day. Speaking of crypto, I've been buying mine on Coinbase, and if you use my link in the description, you'll receive £5 once you sign up and make a trade. Just make sure to store your cryptocurrencies off the exchange in a cold wallet for the most protection. I think the thing that Iman overlooks is the fact that footballers love their job and they're following their passions. Therefore, having this type of freedom probably isn't that important to them. Saying this, I'd definitely recommend you keep in mind your priorities before you start a business, not after. I know a lot of business owners that aren't actually able to travel simply because instead of working on their business, they work in their business and end up in what is basically a 9-to-5 job with no holiday pay.
Look, I'm sorry, but to get to $10,000 a month, it's not hard.
Iman believes that anyone can become rich if they put their mind to it. However, what's interesting is he says in order to achieve his level of success, a person needs a certain level of mental illness to push that far. I can relate to this as I've worked myself to the point of serious illness on 3 separate occasions. In fact, I made a video about my experience being hospitalized and having a near-death experience. I look back on that and tell myself that no amount of money is worth sacrificing my health. Bearing this in mind, I think that in order to achieve a crazy level of wealth, there needs to be a voice in the back of your head going, "Come on, just one more push, you can do it." If something is never enough for a person, it might just be their secret to success, as they don't know when to stop.
I really just don't understand why anyone on earth would want to commit so much time to a fake world, a fake video game, when we're living in the coolest video game in existence.
Just think about it. Every time you close your eyes to sleep, someone else is awake and outworking you. So many young kids get trapped in virtual games like World of Warcraft, designed to trick your brain into thinking that you're achieving things when you're not. I've never been much of a gamer or thought of it like this, but one thing that comes to mind is tinkering. In video games, people are constantly tinkering with their characters, trying to optimize or make them stronger. I was doing the same thing in my businesses. I was tightening screws here and there, adding this thing or that, trying to refine my systems and processes. It's never perfect. The tinkering is a lifelong process, but as someone who loves to fiddle with my race car engines, I love the process. A lot of the problems that come up in my businesses turn out to be problems that reflect me as a person, and these are the hardest to overcome. However, constantly leveling myself up has helped me understand a lot more about myself.
I have a rule, I spend 20% of everything I make.
For Iman, this results in more than $2 million being spent every year. For him, it's important to fill his life with quality products. He even told my son he needs to spend more.
One of my favorite things is pushing people to spend more money. I think
that's what everyone tells me to spend more money.
I think you should spend more money.
Personally, I've never been much of a spender. Even when I've travelled the world, I'd usually have some leftover money at the end of my trips. I think what money really buys is more comfort. But when you buy comfort, you start getting used to it and it's no longer special. The real problem starts when you no longer have the same amount of income, but your habits are stuck where they were when you did. Kind of like when you buy a new set of headphones, the music sounds much better. But then when you try going back to the old ones, the music sounds awful. I've always tried to spend my money on things that give me a return, such as my real estate. Saying this, Only buying things that make you money doesn't always satisfy your desire to be or feel rich. So spending your money shouldn't be vilified. However, you should approach it with caution. The way you view money and your relationship with it has a lot to do with how you grew up. And something I've learned is that it's so important to not let your childhood hold you back. So I'm going to leave the next video right up there, but don't click on it just yet. Make sure to subscribe if you want to grow your wealth, okay? I'll see you over there.